let's come back over and implement this in our code challenge, in our guess the number. And I have made a new file so that we don't have to change the old one. Guess the number with or.py. Okay, so please do that. Pause me if you need to take a second, but this is, I have copied where we were at. And down here in our if statement, this is exactly what we just saw, right? If guess number is n equals correct number, okay, we can't do anything about that. But we have an elif here. If it's +1, then print this off. Otherwise, if it's -1, print the exact same thing off, right? These are identical lines, and that makes no sense. So let me shrink it down a little bit here, and I am going to remove this line entirely. I'm going to cut this statement out here, right? So the elif is now empty, and we're going to come up here, and we're going to drop in an or, and then I'm going to paste it in. Let me shrink it down one more time there so we can see it. So if you guess the correct number, then print this off. Otherwise, if you guessed int +1 equaling the correct number, or guess number -1 equals the correct number, we only have to have this statement in one place, and that is good. So let's try it out. Run Python 3 against guess the number. Oh, I need to go up and then down into code challenges. Guess the number with or.py. Guess the number, I'll try 1. Okay, no good. We'll guess 2 this time. Okay, so it looks like it worked because we got inside that elif. This time I will guess 4. Okay, good stuff, right? So you were close, ran both times. Now, I do not like the way this is indented. This is a really long, frustrating line. So we can take this, and the way that I typically would do it is I would move the or down onto its own line and do that. Now remember, indentation matters unless Python will break given the end of a line and you don't have a colon. It is okay going to the next line. So if I put a colon here, I just told Python this next block needs to be indented. Without that colon there, Python will look to see, can I finish the end of the line safely? And the answer is no, because we have a parenthesis starting it off. So it will keep going until it runs into another one. Okay? This allows me to see this is a statement that is going to evaluate to true or false. Okay? Or, same thing here, right? This is going to evaluate to true or false. If the first one evaluates to true, because this is an or, this doesn't matter. The system won't even check it because we've already satisfied the condition. It has to move forward with the block of code. All right, if this one turns out to be false, then it will go on with the or to that next one, finds out it's true, then execute the block. Otherwise, if it's false, they're both false, which means we skip this and go on to the else statement. Okay? Now, if we change this over to an and here, all right, this kind of like our x from a minute ago, this is never going to work because you can't have this +1 equaling the correct number and this -1 equal the correct number. Yeah, I don't think ever. I can't think of any math occasion where that's ever going to be true. But let's give it a try real quick. We will do 2 this time. Okay, we get our else statement because it failed. We try 4, and the exact same thing happens, okay? And I am going to get rid of this and switch it back to an or so our code works the way that we want it to. And something that's really powerful with Python is that we can have as many of these as we want to in an if or elif as long as they're all separated with an or an and. So for instance, I'm going to take this. We'll drop an or in here and put another statement in like that. So now we have said, and let's change this to a 2. So now we've said if the number +2 is the correct number, or this is true, or this is true. We've got 3 different conditionals, and so we saved ourselves having to write this and this 2 more times. Okay, so this is awesome. We can run it quick, and we'll expect 1, 2, and 4 to all work. We run that. We'll guess 1. Good stuff. We got you were close. Run it again. We got again. You were close. And then let's do 5. There we go. Sorry, that was not the number. So good stuff, right? Again, this is really powerful. All that's happening here, right? Just like any other else if elif statement, it's just going to check to see, is this true or is it false? Okay? And in this case, because we've got an or, if this is true, it does not need to do any of these other ones because it's already satisfied, right? The condition is true. Print off line 17. If this one evaluates to say false, okay, then it needs to go to the next one there, right? Line 16, see, is that true or false? If that's true, okay, then this one doesn't matter, and the first one didn't matter because they're all ors. If this one also evaluates to false, it'll go to the last one and see, is this true or false? If it's true, right, it doesn't matter that these were false because this last one is true. If this is false, right, we have failed all three conditions, and it will go on to the else statement, okay? Now, if you mix ands and ors, it's absolutely fine. But let me come down to the bottom here. We'll take you back to your elementary school days. If you had 3 plus 4 plus 3, what have you just done? Well, it doesn't matter what order you do these in. You can do 3 plus 4, which is 7, plus 3 is 10. Or you can do 4 plus 3, which is 7, and then 7 plus 3 is 10, right? It doesn't matter what order you add them in. They're always going to add up to be the same thing. If you change this one to a multiplication symbol, you have complicated things, because what order do things happen in? Now, there is a specified order in mathematics where you are supposed to do multiplication first and addition last. The same thing is true in programming, in Python, but it's confusing, okay? So I'm not even going to show you how it works. Instead, I'm just going to say, always put parentheses around when you mix your ands and ors so you know how they work together. So what I've said here is 3 times 4, which is 12. Plus 3 gets us to 15. That is very clear. That is good readable code. If I remove that one and I put it around here, I've just said 4 plus 3, which is 7, times 3 gets us to 21. So totally different result, okay? Ands and ors work exactly the same way. If we come back up here and we were to change this to an and, okay, what's actually going on here? Well, if we put a parenthesis around it, we make it really clear, okay? If this and this is true, parentheses there. Okay, so we have now said, figure out, first of all, we've got two things going on here. We have this one or this one. It just so happens that that first one, this one, has two things in it. So this still needs to boil down to either true or it needs to boil down to false, but we have to check both of these to figure out whether the whole thing is true or false. Is this true? Okay, let's say it's false. Well, we've got an and statement there. We're done. We don't need to check anymore because they can't, it doesn't matter if this is true because false and false are both false, right? If this evaluates to true, okay, good stuff. We need to check to see if this one is true, right? This one turns out to be false. Okay, false and true are false. If it turns out to be true, then we have succeeded in this and. This or no longer matters because we've got a true and true equal true, right? If they were to both equal false, okay, then this whole thing is evaluated to false. We have an or statement, so we still have a chance, right? Evaluate this one completely independent, and if this ends up being true, then this LF will succeed. If it ends up being false, right, then false and false. False or false is false, okay? That may have been confusing, but all I'm telling you is this. If whatever's inside of a parentheses, each piece will need to get evaluated. And ultimately, what we're trying to boil down to at the end of this whole thing here, right, an elif with a parentheses, and we end up with true or we end up with false. However we get there is fine to Python. For your sake and for mine as developers, group them together so that we can figure out, is this true and this is true, or is this true? Right? Group them together in such a way that it makes a lot of sense to you if you have to commingle these.